My parents humiliated me at my brother's wedding, but they didn't know I owned the company that was catering the event. So I ordered my employees to pack everything up and leave, leaving 300 guests without food. I always dreamed of working for myself, and that's exactly why I started a catering business. It all began with a small food truck during my college years and over time grew into a full-fledged catering company that now employs over 50 people and serves elite events throughout Chicago. I worked hard to achieve this through sleepless nights, sacrifices, and perseverance. It took me almost 10 years, but I am truly proud of my creation. This context is important to understand what happened last weekend at my younger brother Mark's wedding, which turned into a complete nightmare. To be clear, I haven't spoken to my family in almost 6 years. My mom passed away when I was 14, and my father remarried just a year later to Jenny, my stepmother. From the very beginning, Jenny made it clear that she didn't want the slightest reminder of my mother. My father, eager to move on, allowed her to erase my mom's memory from our lives, which caused tension between us. My younger brother Mark, who was only 10 at the time, became very close to Jenny, while I found it difficult to accept her sudden, domineering role in the house. That's when the problems between my father and me started, and we began to drift apart. The real breaking point came during my college years. I was juggling several part-time jobs to pay for my tuition because my father refused to give me any financial support, saying I needed to learn responsibility. Meanwhile, he was fully paying for Mark's education at an expensive private university. The difference in treatment was too obvious to ignore. Jenny treated me with contempt and never missed an opportunity to belittle my efforts as I was building my catering business. She often called it playing with a food truck while praising Mark's real career in finance. After college, I had almost no contact with them except for rare holiday appearances. The last straw was when, 6 years ago, I found out that my father and Jenny had sold our family home without even telling me. I only learned about it after they had moved, and just like that, everything that was left of my mom, the things I wanted to keep, was gone. When I expressed my outrage to my father, he said I was being too emotional and needed to move on. At that moment, I decided to cut off all communication with him. Then, last month, I unexpectedly received a formal invitation to Mark's wedding. It came with a handwritten note where he wrote that he missed me and wanted to rebuild our relationship. After much thought, I decided to give us a second chance. Despite all our family history, it seemed worth a try. I even offered to cater the wedding at a big discount as a gesture of goodwill. But Mark politely declined, saying they had already hired another company. I was a little hurt, but I let it go. The wedding took place at a beautiful venue in Lake Forest, and I arrived with cautious optimism. Mark was genuinely happy to see me, and I breathed a sigh of relief. But Jenny's attitude hadn't changed one bit. As soon as she saw me, she immediately made a couple of snide comments about my appearance and my business. I ignored it and tried to enjoy the ceremony, which, I have to admit, was truly beautiful. However, the seating arrangement spoke volumes. I was seated far from the immediate family, next to distant cousins I barely knew. It felt like a subtle hint that I was still an outsider in this family. During the reception, everything went completely downhill. My father, clearly drunk, came up to my table and suddenly started attacking me. He accused me of showing up uninvited, even though I had the invitation in my pocket, and loudly declared that I was a disgrace to the family. He said my presence was ruining Mark's important day. Before I could respond, Jenny intervened and, with feigned politeness, asked how much I was earning now, playing restaurant owner. She even commented on my suit, implying I could hardly afford such expensive clothes. Their audacity was off the charts. Instead of saying something or reacting, I decided to leave quietly. I knew it was pointless to argue with them, especially with my father being drunk and Jenny relishing the opportunity to needle me. I was already walking to my car when I suddenly noticed the catering staff setting out the main course. A few of them looked familiar. They were my employees, and then it hit me. The catering company my brother had hired for his wedding had recently been acquired by my firm. The previous owner stayed on as a manager, so I wasn't directly involved in the planning. But legally, both the company and the service at this event were now under my control. I called my operations manager to confirm what I was beginning to suspect. And indeed, it was our booking. I remembered my father's words, that I was a disgrace, that my presence was ruining the wedding. And then I made a decision. If my presence was so offensive to them, then surely they wouldn't want my company servicing their event. I ordered my employees to pack everything up immediately and leave. Within 15 minutes, my 25 employees had loaded all the food, equipment, and inventory into the trucks and left. The chaos began almost immediately. 300 guests were left without food. Guests began to realize that something had gone seriously wrong. My father tried to intervene, but there was nothing he could do. The contract they had signed with the previous owner of the catering company had a clause allowing us to terminate service in the event of hostile or discriminatory behavior towards our employees or management. And that's exactly what had happened. I left my business card with the venue manager and told him to have my father contact my lawyer if there were any questions about payment. The consequences were not long in coming. By morning, my phone was blowing up with messages from relatives, accusing me of being selfish and petty. Mark sent a long message claiming I had ruined his wedding and proved that Jenny had been right about me all along. My father, as expected, threatened to sue me for breach of contract. I forwarded all the correspondence to my lawyer and blocked their numbers. A couple of hours later, messages started coming in from some of the wedding guests. To my surprise, several people took my side. They had seen how my father and Jenny had treated me and were shocked by their behavior. One of Mark's friends, who had used my company's services before, even sent me a message apologizing for what had happened and said he was impressed with how quickly and professionally my team handled the situation. This support was unexpected, but it reminded me that not everyone in the family was blind to what had really happened. Over time, I learned that the story of Mark's wedding had started to spread. Apparently, rumors of the drama had quickly circulated among Mark's colleagues and friends, and soon Jenny's carefully constructed image began to crumble. Some mutual acquaintances even mentioned that Jenny was trying to downplay the incident, placing all the blame on me for the ruined wedding. However, the truth was already out, and no one believed her version of events. The damage was done. I've thought a lot about everything that happened, and honestly, I don't feel guilty. I didn't crash their wedding. I didn't make a scene. I was invited and received complete disrespect in return. They were the ones who decided to humiliate me, and I used my legal right to terminate the service. Nothing personal, just business. They didn't want to see me, which means they didn't need my services either. It's that simple. Nevertheless, I can't shake the feeling that I've been dragged back into the family drama I've wanted to stay away from for so long. Now I'm wondering if I did the right thing, if I went too far, or if they really deserved this outcome for how they treated me. In any case, this whole situation is weighing on my mind, which is why I decided to write here and get your opinion. Do you think my actions were justified? Well, I suggest you pause this video right now and write your opinion about this story in the comments. Do you think the actions were justified? Personally, I was a bit confused by the cancellation moment because, yes, on one hand, you formally have the right to refuse to provide services if it's written in the contract. But on the other hand, word gets around, reviews and all that. Okay, you had personal reasons to put an end to catering this event, but still, mixing business and personal, well, it seems like a not-so-professional approach to me. If, at the very least, I found out that the owner of a catering company had such an episode in his biography, well, I would probably think about whether I should hire him. Because who knows, if he's done it once, what if he doesn't like something at my wedding? I complain about something, and he says, well, we have the right to refuse. So here it is, your wedding day, and we're stopping everything and leaving. You see, if he had said this before the wedding, that no, we won't be catering your wedding, that's one thing. But when everything has already started, the event is underway, and then bam, it's all cut short, well, that's kind of strange. I hope they at least got their money back, those who ordered the service. And not just a part of it, but the full amount. Preferably with some compensation too. Well, it's clear that compensation was unlikely. Anyway, let's find out what happened next. Update 1. Thank you all for the incredible support. Honestly, I didn't expect this story to get such a response, but I'm immensely grateful for all the kind words and feedback. The number of comments and messages simply overwhelmed me. I tried to answer all of them, but it turned out to be a rather tedious task. I sincerely appreciate every response, and many of your perspectives made me look at the whole situation from a new angle. Many asked about the legal side of things and whether my father and Jenny were really planning to take any action against me. The short answer is yes. They threatened to sue, just as I expected. Here's what happened since my first post. Immediately after the wedding fiasco, I contacted a lawyer to prepare in advance for potential problems. We carefully reviewed the contract between my catering company and the previous business owner, which was signed by either Mark or his wedding planner. The good news is that the contract is ironclad. It has a clause that allows us to terminate service in the event of hostile or discriminatory behavior towards our employees or management. This clause was added specifically for situations like this, where things can get out of control. To be completely safe, I contacted the venue manager, who confirmed that the surveillance cameras had recorded everything. The footage clearly shows my father approaching me, and although the sound wasn't perfect, the video is enough to confirm that he was insulting me. Jenny's venomous remarks were also caught on video, which clearly showed their behavior was indeed hostile enough for me to have every reason to stop servicing the event. With this evidence, I felt confident in my legal defense. A few days after the wedding, my lawyer sent a formal letter to my father's lawyer outlining the situation. We described everything in detail, emphasizing that the contract allowed us to refuse service due to their hostile behavior. We even mentioned the video evidence and made it clear that we were prepared to provide it if necessary. At first, I thought that would be the end of it, but of course, I underestimated how stubborn and vindictive Jenny could be. Yesterday, my father's lawyer sent a response demanding a full refund for the catering. They also threatened to sue for damages, claiming that by stopping the service, I had ruined the wedding and caused irreparable harm. They demanded compensation not only for the catering, but also for the overall disruption of the event. Naturally, I wasn't going to give in to their demands. I wasn't going to pay them a penny, especially since they were the ones who created this whole mess. After discussing it with my lawyer, we decided to offer a counter proposal. We are willing to refund 50% of the deposit, but only under two conditions. First, they must sign a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, meaning they cannot publicly discuss the situation or leave negative reviews online. Second, they must sign a waiver of claims, which will prevent them from filing any future lawsuits against me or my company. We sent them this offer and are now just waiting for their response. Despite all this legal wrangling, Jenny has already tried to cause problems. A few days ago, the venue manager called me to report that Jenny had tried to post negative reviews about my catering company online. In her reviews, she claimed that we deliberately ruined the wedding and blew everything out of proportion to make the family look bad. Fortunately, the manager managed to block her attempts, but it's still unpleasant to deal with. My legal team is closely monitoring the situation, and if Jenny continues to spread false information, we will treat it as slander and act accordingly. Strangely enough, the wedding chaos has also brought some unexpected benefits for my business. Several guests from the wedding have already contacted me to express their admiration for how my team handled the situation, and some have even expressed interest in hiring us for their own events. Some said they were impressed by how quickly and professionally my team packed up and left. It's strange to think that such a failure could lead to new opportunities, but it seems that's the silver lining in this whole story. As for my brother Mark, he still hasn't contacted me directly, but he sent a message through one of our mutual cousins. In it, Mark admitted that he feels guilty for not standing up for me at the wedding. He said he didn't want to cause trouble with our father and Jenny, so he stayed silent when things got out of control. He apologized and asked me to talk things over. I have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, I want to give him a chance to explain, but on the other, I feel it's too late. For now, I've decided to postpone meeting with him until this whole legal matter is resolved. Personally, I've been reflecting a lot on what happened. In a way, I'm proud of myself for standing up for myself. My family has treated me like an outsider for years, and I finally drew a line. Legally and professionally, I know I did the right thing. But emotionally, this whole situation has drained me. It's hard not to feel a sense of loss, even though I haven't spoken to my family for many years. Mark's wedding was supposed to be a celebration, but it turned into a lawsuit and another source of family drama. I never wanted this. The full weight of what's happening is really starting to get to me. I find myself thinking more and more about what the long-term consequences will be for my relationships with the rest of my family. Will things ever get back to normal? Will I be able to rebuild my relationship with Mark? Or is the damage already too great? I don't have answers to these questions yet, and it will take time to sort everything out. For now, I'm focused on how my father and Jenny will respond to our offer. If they agree to the NDA and waiver of claims, maybe we can all put this mess behind us. If they refuse and decide to go to court, I'm ready to defend myself and my company. Whatever happens, I'll be sure to share the news with you again. Thank you for your support and kind words. It really means a lot to me, especially during such a chaotic and stressful time. Update 2. Since my last update, things have only gotten more complicated, but at least the legal part is now behind me. I recently learned something interesting. One of my business partners, who had professional contact with the wedding planner hired by Mark and Jenny, told me additional details about what was happening before the wedding itself. It turns out the chaos began long before I showed up. It had been brewing for weeks. According to my partner, Jenny was impossible to work with from the start. She insisted on numerous last-minute changes to the floral arrangements, even though everything had already been agreed upon. and she argued with the planner on almost every point. The wedding cake was remade at least 3 times because Jenny couldn't decide on a design. And a few days before the event, she demanded a complete change to the guest seating chart. The planner had to reassign 300 people more than once, which is not only inconvenient but also expensive. On top of that, serious tension arose between Jenny and the venue staff. Jenny apparently made several condescending remarks about their level of professionalism, complaining that they supposedly didn't meet the standards of such an elite wedding, which is particularly ironic given that this staff was considered one of the best in the industry, and the venue itself is famous for its high service. Jenny also tried to change the band's musical program at the last minute, even though Mark and his fiancée had personally approved the entire playlist months in advance. It was one of those classic situations where Jenny stuck her nose into everything, turning the preparation process into a nightmare for everyone involved. My partner said that at one point before the wedding, the planner was on the verge of quitting due to Jenny's constant interference and unreasonable demands. But like a true professional, he endured it all, despite the emotional pressure Jenny put on the entire team. When I heard this, I felt a certain sense of moral satisfaction. The stress and confusion I felt at the reception turned out to be just the tip of the iceberg compared to what the vendors went through in the week leading up to the event. Now, back to the legal issues. Yesterday, my father's lawyer finally got in touch, and they agreed to accept our offer. After what I assume was a long discussion between my father, Jenny, and their lawyers, they decided to take the partial refund and sign the non-disclosure agreement. This morning, they signed all the necessary documents, and we processed a refund of 50% of their deposit, minus the costs already incurred for food, staff, and logistics. With that, the legal dispute can be considered closed. The letter from their lawyer was dry and formal, without the slightest apology or admission of guilt. But I didn't expect anything else. The main thing is that they accepted the terms of the agreement, and now I don't have to worry about potential legal repercussions from them. However, even though the legal side is closed, the personal consequences are still making themselves felt, and the situation is only getting worse. One of the most troubling developments is that Jenny has been actively trying to undermine my business since the wedding. She has been calling my employees, digging for information about the inner workings of the company. Fortunately, my team is loyal to me and understands perfectly well not to deal with her, especially given the circumstances. We have given all employees clear instructions to immediately forward any inquiries from my family members to the legal department. But it didn't end there. Jenny started reaching out to some of my business partners on LinkedIn, spreading false accusations against me and claiming that I intentionally ruined her son's wedding. It's one thing to be angry, but it's another thing entirely to try to destroy someone's career. Jenny clearly crossed the line by trying to tarnish my reputation. As soon as we found out about this, our lawyer immediately sent her a cease and desist letter. We are taking this very seriously because at this stage, her behavior borders on slander. My legal team is prepared to take further action if necessary, but I hope this letter will cool her down. Nevertheless, knowing Jenny and her tendency to cross all boundaries, I won't be surprised if she continues. But perhaps the most unexpected thing was what happened with my brother, Mark. I wasn't expecting much from him after the wedding, but it seems the consequences of the conflict have affected his marriage as well. According to several acquaintances and cousins, Mark and his new wife have already had their first major fight over what happened at the wedding. Apparently, she was shocked by how my father and Jenny treated me, and she had a serious talk with Mark after the wedding. She told him directly that he should have stood up for me and that allowing his father and stepmother to publicly humiliate me was unacceptable. I heard she is firmly convinced that it's time for Mark to show some backbone and stop bending to our father and Jenny. This led to a major argument between them. They even postponed their honeymoon to deal with these problems. I don't know all the details, but it's perfectly clear to me. For the first time, my brother is facing the reality of the situation and is starting to rethink his relationship with our father and Jenny. I have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, it's nice to know that someone else saw the situation the same way I did. I was really pleased that Mark's wife was just as outraged by our father and Jenny's behavior as I was. But on the other hand, I feel sorry for Mark as a human being. He's in a tough spot. Although I'm angry at him for not standing up for me, I understand that he's been under family pressure for years. It's not an excuse, but still, he just got married and now has to deal with all this chaos. So, the legal issues are closed. Jenny's attempts to harm my business are being handled by my legal team. And for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to feel some sense of closure. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with Mark or the rest of my family. But for now, I'm moving forward, one step at a time. Right now, I'm just grateful for the support I've received from my employees, business partners, and even some family members who wrote to me personally with words of support. If anything else happens, I'll be sure to let you know. For now, I hope this chapter is coming to an end. Update 3. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Yesterday, I met up with Mark for a cup of coffee. It was a rather emotional meeting that I wasn't fully prepared for, but I felt it was necessary. This conversation had been brewing for a long time, and I think we both knew it. Mark apologized for years of enabling Jenny's behavior and our father's favoritism. He was visibly shaken, and I could see the weight he was carrying. I always knew Mark loved me, but to hear him admit that he had also become complicit in letting Jenny dictate the rules in our family was a huge step. Mark told me that Jenny had been controlling their family for years through financial machinations. He found out that she had convinced our father to sign over most of the assets to her name, including a stake in Mark's own house. Mark had no idea what was happening and felt betrayed. This explained a lot about their relationship. He was upset that he had been living under the illusion of having some independence when, in reality, Jenny was pulling all the strings. Now that he understands everything, he has started working with a financial advisor to regain his independence. I'm proud of him for taking this step. It shows that he's ready to change his life. During our meeting, Mark also mentioned that he and his wife had had a fight. Later that day, she contacted me personally and shared some good news. They are going to couples therapy. It seems Mark is finally starting to find his voice and stand up to Jenny, something he has never done before. They are actively looking for a new apartment, something that will be in their names only, without any involvement from Jenny. Hearing this was a real relief. It looks like they are setting boundaries and taking back control of their lives. And I sincerely hope it continues this way. Additionally, Mark's wife mentioned that they are planning a small vow renewal ceremony. In a few months, different relatives will be sitting at their family table. This means they are consciously redefining what family means to them. This truly warmed my heart. It seems they have decided to build a new family history, one free from the toxicity of Jenny and our father. To my surprise, Jenny and my father have been quiet since signing the NDA. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that they have started to face social consequences in their country club circle. It turns out, all this time they had been telling people around them a completely different version of our family story, painting me as the villain. But now, it seems people are starting to doubt their stories and the consequences of their actions are catching up to them. It's strange to realize that their social status, which they valued so much, is now under threat because of their own behavior. This whole experience has taught me a lot, especially about the importance of setting boundaries with toxic family members. Sometimes the hardest decisions, like maintaining those boundaries or standing up for your principles, turn out to be the right ones, even if they cause short-term chaos. I've learned that staying true to your truth, despite condemnation, can lead to unexpected growth and healing in other relationships. I am grateful for your support. Many of you wrote to me, sharing your own stories about toxic relatives, and it made me feel better to know that I am not alone in this situation. I hope my story helps others who are facing something similar. I've realized that life is too short to waste on toxic people, but it's also never too late to reconcile with those who are truly remorseful. I intend to keep my distance from Jenny and my father in the future. They have shown me who they really are, but I am cautiously optimistic about the possibility of rebuilding my relationship with Mark and other family members who are open to respectful communication. I think we have a chance for reconciliation, especially now that Mark understands the importance of healthy boundaries. Business is going even better than I expected. After that wedding incident, several potential clients contacted me, impressed with how my team handled the situation. They highly praised the professionalism we maintained despite the chaos. Our company's reputation has even strengthened in the local community, and we are now seeing a sharp increase in orders. It's very gratifying to know that years of hard work are paying off, and my perseverance and dedication are starting to bear fruit. I also took the time to meet with my employees to discuss the incident. It was important for me to make sure they felt supported and appreciated for the professionalism they showed in a difficult situation. Their feedback was very warm. Many expressed gratitude for the strong corporate culture we have built together. And this made me feel proud as a leader. It reaffirmed for me how important it is to treat your employees well and create a positive work environment. Take care of yourselves and remember, it's okay to protect yourself, even if it's hard. You never know who it might inspire to do the same. Well, that's all. Write your opinion in the comments. I haven't changed my opinion on this in the end. I am very glad that the author managed to resolve this issue. And overall, I'm very happy for the author. Perhaps I would have done the same thing myself, but as a client, I would most likely not turn to such a business. Even the mere presence of such a clause in the contract would likely scare me off, unless it was accepted as a standard across the industry, which is not out of the question. In general, I don't like the situation where many firms, especially IT giants, write in their contracts that they bear no responsibility, and if something happens, it's your own problem. Let's imagine a situation. I hired some planner who hired some catering company. At my wedding, I had a conflict with some person, and it turned out this person is the owner of the catering company. But hold on, I didn't know he was the owner of this catering company. I didn't even know what specific catering company it was because my planner was responsible for everything. The planner brought me a contract, said it was a good company. I signed it, and then my whole wedding gets ruined just because I had a conflict with someone. And who is right in this conflict? Well, that's still a debatable question. It's good when a story clearly shows who the villain is and who the good guy is. But often in life, things are not so clear-cut. So there you have it. Be sure to write in the comments whether you agree with me or have a different opinion. It will be interesting to read. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Watch our previous videos, which you will see right here. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if for some reason you haven't already. And good luck to you.